The emergency beacon cut through space like a knife. Its red light blinked on and off in the darkness between stars. Inside the signal was a message that would change everything. Ambassador Thylan floated in his water tank, his blue skin pale with fear. His large black eyes stared at the communication device in front of him. The device showed numbers that made his heart sink. Millions of ships, billions of dead. Entire worlds turned to dust. "Send the message again," Thylan said to his aide. His voice bubbled through the water. "The Ethereal Council must hear us. They are our only hope." The aide, a younger Velthari named Kryn, moved his webbed hands over the controls. "Ambassador, we have sent the message 50 times. They do not answer." Thylan closed his eyes. The Ethereal Council had kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. They were old and wise and powerful. If they would not help, who would? Far away, on the edge of known space, Captain Daeho Kim sat in his command chair. He was tired. His ship, the TDC Indomitable, had been patrolling the outer rim for 3 months. Nothing ever happened out here. Just empty space and old rocks. "Captain," called his communications officer, Lieutenant Eugene Park. "I am getting something strange. It sounds like a distress call." Daeho sat up straight. "Put it on screen." The main screen flickered. Then a blue face appeared. It had large black eyes and gills on the sides of its neck. The creature looked scared. "This is Ambassador Thylan of the Velthari Confederation," the message began. "We ask for help from any who can hear this. The Nexus has come to our space. They destroy everything. Our fleets are gone. Our worlds are dying. We have children and elders who cannot fight. Please, someone must help us." The message showed pictures that made Daeho's stomach turn. Black. Ships that looked like insects, cities burning, people running and screaming, bodies floating in space. "The Nexus uses weapons that unmake matter," Thylan continued. "They turn our people into something else, something that serves them. We count their ships in millions. We cannot stop them alone." The message ended. The bridge was quiet. "Sir," said Eugene, "should I try to contact Earth Command?" Daeho nodded slowly. "Yes. Send this to Admiral Sujin Park. She needs to see this." 3 hours later, Admiral Sujin Park stood in her ready room. She was looking at star charts on her wall. The charts showed the location of the Velthari space. It was far from Earth. Very far. Her door chimed. "Come in," she said. Captain Daeho walked in. He looked worried. "Admiral, did you see the message?" "I did." Sujin turned to face him. "What do you think?" "I think those people are going to die if someone does not help them." Sujin nodded. "I agree. But Earth Command says we should wait. They want to know more about this Nexus. They want to study the situation." "How long will that take?" "Months, maybe years." Daeho's face grew hard. "Those people do not have months." Sujin walked to her desk. On it was a picture of her daughter. Her daughter was only 8 years old. "If it was Earth under attack, what would we want other species to do?" "Help us," Daeho said without thinking. "Even if we were strangers? Even if helping us was dangerous?" "Yes." Sujin picked up her communication device. "Get me the fleet commanders. All of them." 1 hour later, 12 ship captains appeared on Sujin's screen. They commanded the 7th Expeditionary Fleet. 300 ships, 60,000 crew members. It was not a large fleet by galactic standards. "I will make this simple," Sujin said. "There is a species under attack. They asked for help. Earth Command wants us to wait and study the situation. I want to help them now. Who is with me?" Captain Taeyong Song spoke first. "Admiral, we do not know anything about this enemy. We do not know how strong they are. We know they are stronger than the people asking for help," Sujin replied. "That could mean anything," said Captain Jiwoo Lee. "Maybe these Velthari are weak." Captain Wujin Han shook his head. I looked at their ships in the message. They are not weak. Their technology is good. If they cannot fight this Nexus, then the Nexus is very dangerous. Which is why Earth Command wants us to wait, said Song. Su Jin stood up. I have been in space for 20 years. I have seen what happens when good people do nothing. Evil grows stronger. More people die. If we wait, maybe the Nexus will grow too strong to stop. Captain Bo Young Kim spoke up. What if we lose? What if our whole fleet is destroyed? Then we die doing the right thing, Su Jin said. Better than living with the knowledge that we could have helped and chose not to. The captains were quiet for a moment. Then, one by one, they nodded. Good, said Su Jin. We leave in 6 hours. Tell your crews we are going to help some people who need it. Do not tell them we might not come back. Back on the Velthari homeworld of Aquanis, Thylan floated in his chamber. He had not slept in days. The reports kept coming in. Another world lost. Another fleet destroyed. The Nexus was getting closer to Aquanis. Kryn swam up to him quickly. Ambassador, we are getting a response. Thylan's hearts began to beat faster. The Ethereal Council? No, sir. Someone else. They say they are from something called the Terran Defense Coalition. They say they are coming to help. Thylan had never heard of Terrans. Are they powerful? Do they have big fleets? Kryn checked his data pad. I do not know, sir. But they say they will be here in 4 days. 4 days. The Nexus would reach Aquanis in 5 days. If these Terrans were coming to help, they would arrive just in time. Find out everything you can about these. Terrans, Thylan ordered. I want to know who is coming to save us. What Kryn found out made him very worried. The Terrans came from a world called Earth. The Galactic database listed Earth as a class thought through Deathworld. That meant it was so dangerous that most species could not live there. The gravity was too strong, the weather was too violent. The plants and animals were too deadly. The database said that only the most primitive species could survive on Deathworlds. They were usually violent and stupid. They fought each other instead of working together. They had not learned to live in peace. But these Terrans had ships. They had technology. They had traveled between stars. How could a primitive species do that? Kryn brought his findings to Thylan. The ambassador read the report and grew very still. Are you sure this is right? Thylan asked. Yes, sir. These Terrans are Deathworlders. The database says they are dangerous. Thylan looked out his window at the blue oceans of Aquanis. His world was peaceful and beautiful. His people had lived in harmony for thousands of years. They had never known real war until the Nexus came. Maybe, Thylan said slowly. Dangerous is what we need right now. In space, the human fleet moved toward Velthari territory. Admiral Sujin Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, the TDC Righteous. She watched the stars stream past as they traveled through hyperspace. Admiral, said her science officer, Dr. Hiron Choi, I have been studying the data from the Velthari message. This Nexus seems very advanced. Their ships are larger than ours. They have more of them. Are you saying we should turn back? Sujin asked. No, ma'am. I am saying we need to be smart about this. We cannot fight them the way they expect us to fight. Sujin smiled grimly. Doctor, I do not think anyone in the galaxy fights the way we do. Dr. Choi nodded. She had studied other species for years. Most of them were peaceful. They had evolved on safe worlds with plenty of food and no predators. They solved problems by talking and sharing. Humans were different. Earth had tried to kill them for millions of years. They had learned to fight back. They had learned to never give up. How long until we reach Velthari space? Sujin asked. 3 days, Admiral. Good. Send a message to the Velthari. Tell them, the cavalry is coming. Thylan received the human message just as the first Nexus scouts appeared at the edge of his solar system. The message was short and simple. We are coming. Hold on. That was all. No grand speeches, no promises they might not be able to keep, just 5 words that somehow gave Thailand hope. He looked at the tactical display showing the Nexus ships, black dots moving toward his blue world like a disease. Soon there would be more dots, many more. But somewhere in hyperspace, ships from a death world were racing to help them. Ships crewed by people who had learned to fight on a world that wanted them dead. Maybe, Thailand thought, that was exactly what they needed. The Nexus had no idea what was coming for them. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Velthari territory. Admiral Sujin Park watched the main screen as dozens of blue and silver ships appeared. They were beautiful ships, curved like seashells, but many showed damage from recent battles. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Eugene Park from communications, "the Velthari are asking permission to come aboard. Their ambassador wants to meet with us." "Tell them yes," Sujin replied, "but warn them about our gravity and our air." An hour later, Commander Ji-Woo Lee stood in the shuttle bay. She wore her dress uniform and tried to look friendly. The Velthari shuttle was nothing like human ships. It was round and smooth, like a bubble filled with water. The shuttle landed with a soft splash. Water poured out as the doors opened. Ambassador Thailand floated out in a clear tank filled with blue liquid. 2 other Velthari swam beside him in their own tanks. Ji-Woo stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the TDC Righteous. I am Commander Lee." Thailand's tank had speakers. When he spoke, his voice came out sounding strange and bubbly. "Thank you for coming, Commander. We did not expect anyone to answer our call." "We humans have a saying," Ji-Woo replied. "Good people help other good people. No questions asked." The Velthari looked confused. One of them, a younger male named Kryn, spoke up. "But you do not know us. We could be your enemies." "Are you?" Ji-Woo asked. "No, but then we are friends." The Velthari stared at her. In their world, friendship took time to build. Trust came slowly. These humans seemed to give both freely. Ji-Woo led them through the ship. The Velthari tanks floated on small hover platforms. As they moved, Thailand noticed something strange. The human ship felt heavy. Very heavy. "Commander," Thailand said carefully, "what is the gravity on your ship?" "Standard Earth gravity. About 9.8 meters per second squared." The Velthari exchanged worried looks. That was 3 times the gravity of their home world. It would crush most species. "Does that not hurt you?" asked Kryn. Ji-Woo looked surprised. "Hurt us? No, this is normal for us." She jumped up and down, a few times to show them. "See?" The Velthari watched in shock as the human bounced around in gravity that would kill them. Her bones did not break. Her organs did not collapse. She smiled like it was nothing. They reached the conference room. Dr. Hai-Rin Choi was waiting with several datapads. She stood when they entered, and the Velthari saw something that made them very uncomfortable. Dr. Choi was small for a human, but she looked incredibly strong. Her muscles showed clearly under her uniform. Her hands looked like they could crush stone. When she smiled, they could see her teeth, sharp white teeth like a predator. "Please sit," Dr. Choi said kindly. "Or float. Whatever is comfortable." Thailand positioned his tank near the table. "Dr. Choi, we have studied your species since you agreed to help us. The Galactic database says you come from a death world." "Yes, Earth is classified that way." Dr. Choi nodded. "Though we just call it home." "The database says your world is very dangerous." Dr. Choi laughed. "I suppose it is. We have storms that can destroy cities, animals that hunt in packs, plants that can kill you if you touch them, diseases that spread through the air." "And you live there by choice?" "Where else would we live? It is our world." Kryn moved closer to his tank's glass. "Are all Deathworlders like humans?" "We do not know," Dr. Choi admitted. "Most species avoid death worlds. We are probably the first ones to make it to space." "How?" Thailand asked. "How did you survive long enough to build starships?" Dr. Choi thought for a moment. "We learned to work together. When something tried to kill us, we killed it back. When we could not kill it, we learned to avoid it. When we could not avoid it, we learned to live with it. And if something was stronger than you, then we got smarter, or faster, or more stubborn." Dr. Choi smiled again. "Humans are very stubborn." The meeting was interrupted when Captain Tae-young Song entered the room. He was a big man, even by human standards. The Velthari had never seen anything like him. He looked like he could fight a ground vehicle and win. "Admiral Park wants to see the tactical data," Song said to Dr. Choi. Then he noticed the Velthari. "Oh, sorry. Did not know we had guests." "Captain Song, this is Ambassador Thailand," Jiwoo said. Song nodded politely. "Ambassador, heard you folks have been having trouble with some machines." "The Nexus, yes," Thailand replied. "They have destroyed 17 of our worlds, killed billions of our people." Song's face grew hard. "Well, that ends now." "Captain," Kryn said nervously, "the Nexus has millions of ships. They have weapons that can destroy matter itself. They turn living beings into machines. So, how can you stop them?" Song looked genuinely confused by the question. "We shoot them until they stop moving. If that does not work, we ram them with our ships. If that does not work, we get out and punch them." The Velthari thought he was joking. Then they looked at his face and realized he was completely serious. Dr. Choi pulled up a hologram of a Nexus ship. It was black and angular, covered in weapons. "Ambassador, can you tell us how these ships fight?" Thailand manipulated controls on his tank. The hologram changed to show a battle. "They move in perfect formation. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing. They calculate the best solution to every problem. They never make mistakes." "That sounds boring," Song said. "Boring? Where is the creativity? The surprise? How do you outthink an enemy that always does the same thing?" Dr. Choi leaned forward. "Captain, I think that might be the point." "Show them our fighter recordings from the training exercises." A new hologram appeared. It showed human fighter ships moving in what looked like complete chaos. They spun and dove and rolled in patterns that made no sense. Sometimes they flew straight at enemy fire. Sometimes they ran away. Sometimes they did both at the same time. "This is how we fight," Dr. Choi explained. "Each pilot makes their own decisions. Sometimes we work together. Sometimes we do not. Sometimes we change our minds in the middle of a battle. But that is random," Kryn protested. "Exactly," Song grinned. "Try to calculate that." Dr. Choi brought up more data. "Ambassador, we studied the wreckage from your battles. The Nexus. Ships are very advanced, but they have a weakness." "What weakness?" "They think too much like machines. They assume everyone else thinks like machines too. They calculate the most logical response to every situation. And humans are not logical," Jiwoo said. "We do things that make no sense. We fight when we should run. We help strangers for no reason. We never give up even when we know we are going to lose." Thailand was quiet for a long moment. "You came here to help us. You do not know us. You get nothing for helping us. Many of you will probably die." "Yes," said all three humans at the same time. "Why?" Song shrugged. "Because you asked. That makes no sense. See? We told you we are not logical." Dr. Choi called up another display. "There is something else, Ambassador. We found traces of exotic matter in the Nexus weapon signatures. We think we know how their technology works." "How?" "They convert matter into pure information. Then they rebuild it as part of their network. That is how they turn people into machines." Thailand's skin grew pale. "Yes, we have seen this happen. The good news is that this process requires very specific conditions. If we can disrupt those conditions, You can stop the conversion process? Maybe. We are still working on it. But Dr. So-Young Kim in engineering thinks she has an idea. That moment, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The red lights flashed as Admiral Park's voice came over the speakers. All hands to battle stations. Nexus scouts have entered the system. This is not a drill. Song was already moving toward the door. Ambassador, you might want to get your people to a safe distance. Things are about to get interesting. Wait, Thylan called. You are going to fight them right now. Just a few scouts, Ji-Woo said. Good chance to see how they work. How many scouts? Dr. Choi checked her data pad. Sensors show 12 ships. 12. Nexus ships destroyed our entire outer defense fleet. Song paused at the door. Ambassador, how many ships were in your outer defense fleet? 47. Song and Ji-Woo looked at each other. Song spoke first. 47 ships lost to 12 scouts? They were good ships, good crews. I am sure they were, Ji-Woo said gently. But Ambassador, we are not the Velthari, we are humans. We come from a world that has been trying to kill us since we first stood upright. We learned to fight back. Trust us, Song added as he left. 12 scouts are not enough. 20 minutes later, Thylan watched from the observation deck as the human fleet engaged the Nexus scouts. What he saw made no sense. The human ships moved like living things. They twisted and turned and spun in patterns that seemed random. The Nexus ships fired their perfect salvos at empty space. Their targeting computers could not predict where the humans would be. The humans fired back with weapons that looked primitive compared to Nexus technology. But every shot hit. Every missile found its target. In 15 minutes, all 12 Nexus scouts were destroyed. The humans lost no ships. They took no damage. How? Thylan whispered. Dr. Choi stood beside him, watching the debris field. The Nexus calculated the logical response to their attack pattern. Unfortunately for them, we did not respond logically. But your weapons are designed by people who learn to hunt on a death world. We do not build guns to be elegant. We build them to kill things that are trying to kill us. The main Nexus fleet arrived like a black storm. 17,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velthari system. Each ship was the size of a small city. Together, they blocked out the stars. Admiral Soo-Jin Park stood on the bridge of the TDC Righteous. She watched the sensor readings with calm eyes. Her officers looked nervous. 17,000 enemy ships against their 300. The math was simple and terrifying. Admiral, called Lieutenant Yoo-Jin Park from communications, the Nexus is broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it on screen. The main display showed a figure that might have once been alive. It was tall and thin, with metal parts where flesh should be. Its eyes glowed with cold blue light. When it spoke, its voice had no emotion. Biological entities of the Terran fleet. You will withdraw immediately. This system belongs to the Nexus. All biological life will be converted or destroyed. Soo-Jin stepped forward. This is Admiral Park of the Terran Defense Coalition. These people are under our protection. You will leave this system immediately. The Nexus figure tilted its head. Your fleet consists of 307 vessels. Our fleet consists of 17,042 vessels. Withdrawal is the only logical option. Logic is overrated, Soo-Jin replied. We are staying. Then you will be converted. Your biological uniqueness will be added to our collective. Resistance is futile. Soo-Jin smiled coldly. You know what? I really hate it when people say that. She cut the communication and turned to her bridge crew. All ships, this is Admiral Park. Today we find out what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Spoiler alert, the immovable object wins. Execute Protocol Ragnarok. Across the human fleet, captains received their orders. Protocol Ragnarok was not in any official military manual. It was a battle plan created by people who understood that Sometimes the only way to win was to do something so crazy that it worked. Colonel Min Ho Jang stood in the Marine bay of the assault ship TDC Retribution. Around him, 500 Marines checked their weapons and equipment. They wore black armor that made them look like death itself. "Listen up," Jang called out. "Today we are going to do something that no other species in the galaxy has ever done. We are going to board Nexus ships and fight them hand to hand." The Marines cheered. They had trained for this. Humans were the only species crazy enough to fight machines in close combat. "Remember," Jang continued, "these machines think they are perfect. They think they can predict everything we do. Show them how wrong they are." Major Ari Shin stepped forward. She was small and fast, with scars on her face from fighting on Earth's deadliest continents. "Marines, the Nexus converts biological matter into digital information. Do not let them touch you with their conversion beams. If you see someone getting converted, you know what to do." The Marines nodded grimly. They all carried thermite charges. If conversion was certain, they would deny the Nexus their biological uniqueness the hard way. In the fighter bays, Captain Wu Jin Han ran through his pre-flight checks. His fighter was small and fast, built for speed rather than protection. The cockpit was barely big enough for a human. Most other species would find it cramped and uncomfortable. "Raptor Squadron, this is Raptor Leader," Han said into his comm. "Today we dance with death. Make sure death blinks first." His squadron replied with wild war cries. They were young pilots who had learned to fly in Earth's violent storms. The vacuum of space seemed peaceful compared to flying through a hurricane. Dr. So Young Kim worked frantically in the engineering section of the TDC Righteous. She had discovered something important about Nexus technology. Their ships used quantum entanglement to coordinate their attacks. If she could disrupt that entanglement— "Admiral," Kim called over the comm, "I need 30 seconds of direct contact with a Nexus ship. If I can plant my quantum virus in their network, it will spread to their entire fleet." 30 seconds? Sujin replied. "That is a long time in a space battle." "I know, but if this works, we can turn their perfect coordination against them." On the planet below, Ambassador Thailand watched from his command center. The human fleet looked tiny compared to the Nexus Armada. He could not understand how the humans stayed so calm. "Sir," Kryn said nervously, "should we evacuate the cities?" Thailand thought about it. If the humans lost, evacuation would not matter. The Nexus would convert or kill everyone anyway. "No," he said finally. "If we are going to die, we die at home." The battle began without warning. The Nexus fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship would be. Their weapons charged with mathematical precision. The human fleet scattered like startled fish. The Nexus computers calculated intercept courses for each human ship. They predicted where the humans would go and fired their weapons accordingly. Every shot missed. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense. Some flew straight at the Nexus fleet. Others ran away. Some spun in circles while firing in random directions. A few ships actually turned around and flew backward while shooting over their shoulders. Captain Tae-Young Song commanded the TDC Retribution from the center of the chaos. His ship was the largest in the human fleet, built to carry Marines into battle. It should have been an easy target. Instead, it danced. Song had learned to pilot on Earth's most dangerous racecourses. He flew his massive ship like a fighter, spinning and diving through space in ways that should have been impossible. "Sir," his navigator called out, "you are exceeding the ship's design limits." "The ship will hold together," Song replied calmly. "It was built by humans." The Retribution twisted through a gap between two Nexus ships and fired its main guns at point-blank range. The Nexus ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Across the battlefield, Captain Wu Jin Han led his fighters in an attack that defied all military logic. Instead of staying together, his squadron split up and attacked from 12 different directions at once. The Nexus point defense systems could not track them. The fighters moved too randomly, changed direction too often, and did things that no logical pilot would ever do. Han dove his fighter straight down the barrel of a Nexus weapon. At the last second, he pulled up and fired a missile into the weapon's mouth. The explosion tore the Nexus ship apart from the inside. "Raptor 2 to Raptor Leader," came a voice over the comm. "I think I just flew through that ship's engine exhaust." "Did it kill you?" Han asked. "No, sir." "Then keep flying." The Marines were having the time of their lives. Colonel Jang led the boarding assault on a Nexus command ship. His Marines used cutting torches to burn through the hull, then poured inside like a flood of destruction. The Nexus drones tried to stop them. The drones were logical and efficient. They calculated the best defensive positions and waited for the humans to attack. The humans did not attack the defensive positions. They ignored them completely and attacked everything else instead. Major Shin led her squad through the ship's ventilation system. Most species were too large to fit in such small spaces. Humans were not. They dropped out of air vents and attacked the Nexus from behind. When the drones turned to face them, other Marines attacked from different directions. The humans were everywhere at once. "Target the central processing core," Jang ordered over the comm. "Dr. Kim needs her 30 seconds. The Marines fought their way deeper into the ship. The Nexus drones were strong and fast, but they thought like machines. They expected logical tactics. The Marines gave them chaos instead. Dr. Kim's voice crackled over the comm. "I am in position. Beginning virus upload." The 30 seconds felt like 30 hours. The Marines fought like demons to protect Dr. Kim while she worked. They used weapons that most species considered too dangerous, explosives in enclosed spaces, plasma cutters that could melt through anything, guns that fired metal spikes at hypersonic speeds. "Upload complete," Kim announced. "Everyone out, now!" The Marines ran for their escape pods as the quantum virus spread through the Nexus ship's systems. The virus was a piece of pure human chaos, designed to make machines think in contradictory ways. The Nexus ship began to spin in circles, its weapons firing randomly in all directions. Throughout the fleet, Admiral Soo-Jin Park watched as the virus spread from ship to ship through the Nexus quantum network. One by one, the perfect formation began to fall apart. "All ships," she ordered, "execute Phase 2. Time to finish this." The human fleet regrouped and attacked with everything they had. The Nexus ships, no longer coordinated, could not respond effectively. They fired at empty space while human weapons found their targets. It was not a fair fight. It never had been. The Nexus had expected to face a logical enemy that would use logical tactics. Instead, they faced humans who had learned to survive on a world that wanted them dead. In 2 hours, it was over. 17,000 Nexus ships were either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. The human fleet had lost 12 ships and 4,000 crew members. Admiral Park stood on her bridge and looked at the wreckage. So many good people dead. So many families that would never see their loved ones again. "Admiral," Yujin said quietly, "we are receiving a message from the Velthari homeworld." "Put it on screen." Ambassador Thylon appeared, his blue skin bright with joy. "Admiral Park, we cannot thank you enough. You have saved our entire species." "You are welcome, Ambassador. But the fight is not over." The victory celebration lasted exactly 1 hour. Then reality set in. Commander Eun Seo Baek stood in the wreckage of what had been the TDC Hammer. The ship had taken a direct hit from a Nexus weapon in the final moments of the battle. Half the crew was dead. The other half wished they were. "How many?" Admiral Soo-Jin Park asked quietly. 4,237, Beck replied. "Dead or missing?" Soo-Jin closed her eyes. Each number was a person. Someone's son or daughter, someone's parent or spouse, people who had volunteered to help strangers and paid the ultimate price. The wounded? 8,000 more. Most will recover. Some Speck shook her head. Some will never be the same. Around them, rescue crews worked to pull survivors from the damaged ships. The victory against the Nexus felt hollow when weighed against the cost in human lives. Dr. Hai-Rin Choi approached with a data pad in her hands. Admiral, we have the analysis of the Nexus technology. What we found is disturbing. Show me. The datapad displayed images of Nexus conversion chambers. Inside the chambers were beings that had once been alive. Now they were something else. Part machine, part computer program, part digital ghost. The Nexus does not just kill, Dr. Choi explained. They preserve consciousness during conversion. The beings they capture remain aware. They know what has happened to them, but they cannot control their actions. Su Jin felt sick. You mean the Nexus converts people against their will and forces them to stay conscious while they serve the collective? Yes. It is not death. It is eternal slavery. Admiral Park looked out at the debris field where 17,000 Nexus ships floated dead in space. Inside those ships were millions of converted beings who had once been free. The victory suddenly felt less like triumph and more like mercy-killing. There is more, Dr. Choi continued. I found records in the Nexus data cores. The collective started as a peaceful species called the Kethmori. They were artists and philosophers who lived on a garden world. What happened to them? They became afraid. Their world was attacked by raiders. Their people were killed and enslaved. The survivors decided that the only way to be safe was to become perfectly organized, perfectly logical, perfectly unified. So they created the Nexus. They became the Nexus. They converted themselves first, believing it would make them strong enough to protect their children. But once they lost their individual will, they could not stop. The programming compelled them to convert everyone else for their own protection. Su Jin stared at the data. The Nexus had not started as evil machines. They had been people trying to protect their families, good intentions twisted into something monstrous. Admiral, called Lieutenant Eugene Park from the communications station, we are receiving a priority message from Earth. The Galactic Council wants to speak with you. Put them through. The main screen flickered and showed 5 figures. They were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. These were the Ethereal Council, the oldest and most powerful beings in the galaxy. The center figure spoke in a voice like music. Admiral Park, we are Serenity of Eternal Wisdom, speaker for the Council. We must discuss your recent actions. What? About them? You used weapons of mass destruction against the Nexus fleet. You employed tactics that caused unnecessary suffering. You violated 17 different galactic warfare conventions. Su Jin's face grew hard. We saved an entire species from extinction. You could have negotiated with the Nexus, found a peaceful solution. They were converting civilians into machines. There was no negotiating with that. Another council member spoke. This one's voice was colder. The Nexus offered order, stability, an end to conflict and suffering. At the cost of free will. Free will leads to chaos. Chaos leads to pain. The Nexus way eliminates both. Dr. Choi stepped forward. With respect, your wisdom, we have studied Nexus conversion techniques. The process does not eliminate pain. It makes pain permanent. The converted beings remain conscious and aware, but they cannot control their actions. They are trapped inside their own minds forever. The council members looked uncomfortable. That was not in their reports. Because the Nexus does not understand suffering anymore, Su Jin said. They have forgotten what it means to be alive. The first council member spoke again. Nevertheless, your tactics were excessive. The galactic community cannot tolerate such violence. The galactic community was not lifting a finger to help the Velthari, Su Jin shot back. Where were you when they called for aid? Where was your peaceful solution when entire worlds were being converted? We were studying the situation. While people died, order must be maintained. No! Sujin's voice cut through the council member's words like a blade. Order without freedom is not peace. It is slavery, and humans do not tolerate slavery. The transmission ended abruptly. The council had not expected such defiance from a species they considered primitive. Ambassador Thailand floated into the conference room. His blue skin was pale with worry. Admiral, I overheard the transmission. The Galactic Council is not pleased with your actions. I noticed. They have great power. They could make things difficult for your people. Sujin turned to face the Velthari ambassador. Ambassador, let me ask you something. If the Nexus had succeeded in converting your people, would you have wanted us to show restraint? No, but if your children were being turned into machines, would you have cared about galactic warfare conventions? Thailand was quiet for a moment. No. I would have wanted you to do whatever was necessary to save them. That is the difference between humans and the Council, Sujin said. We care more about saving lives than following rules. Dr. Choi brought up a new display. Admiral, I have been analyzing the Nexus data cores. I found something important. The collective has not been expanding randomly. They have been systematically targeting specific types of species. What types? Creative species. Chaotic species. Species that think in unpredictable ways. They are trying to eliminate anyone who might resist their order. Sujin studied the data. The pattern was clear. The Nexus had destroyed dozens of species known for art, music, and innovative thinking. They had left alone the more organized, logical species. They are trying to make the galaxy safe for order, she realized, by eliminating chaos, which means they will come for Earth eventually, Dr. Choi added. Humans are probably the most chaotic species in the galaxy. Captain Tae-young Song entered the conference room. His uniform was torn and dirty from the battle. Admiral, the Velthari Defense Minister wants to speak with you. He has a proposal. What kind of proposal? He wants to form an alliance. The Velthari, humans and any other species willing to resist the Nexus. He calls it the Free Worlds Coalition. Sujin considered this. An alliance would mean resources and support, but it would also mean responsibility. Once they started protecting other species, where would it end? There is more, Song continued. We intercepted Nexus communications before their ships were destroyed. They have sent word back to their main collective. More fleets are coming, much larger fleets. How large? Millions of ships. The force we just defeated was just a scouting expedition. The room fell silent. The humans had won one battle, but the war was just beginning. Ambassador Thailand spoke first. Admiral, if you form this alliance, you will be asking your people to fight for strangers again and again. Many more humans will die. Yes. Why would you do that? Sujin walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Nexus was building more ships, planning more conversions, targeting more worlds full of innocent people. Ambassador, humans have a saying, evil triumphs when good. People do nothing. We are good people. We will not do nothing. Even if it costs you everything, especially then. Dr. Choi pulled up a new display. Admiral, I have been studying other Deathworld species in the Galactic database. Most of them have been classified as extinct or lost. But what if they are not dead? What if they are hiding? What do you mean? Look at this. 17 species from Deathworlds have disappeared over the last 1,000 years, but in each case, their homeworlds showed signs of continued habitation. What if they went into hiding when the galaxy became too organized for them? Sujin studied the data. It was possible. Deathworld species would be naturally suspicious of authority. They might have chosen isolation over integration. If we could find them, we could have allies who understand the value of chaos. Doctor Choi finished. Species who would fight for freedom instead of order. Captain Song stepped forward. Admiral, the fleet is ready for your orders. What do we do next? Sujin turned back to face her officers. The weight of command felt heavier than ever. She was asking her people to fight a war that might last for generations, a war against an enemy with unlimited resources and perfect coordination. But she was also offering the galaxy something it had forgotten: hope. The hope that free people could stand against tyranny and win. Send a message to the Velthari Defense Minister, she ordered. Tell him we accept his proposal. The Free Worlds Coalition is born. And the Galactic Council? Tell them that humans do not ask permission to do the right thing. If they want to stop us, they can try. But they had better bring an army. Sujin looked around the room at her officers. They were tired and wounded, but their eyes burned with determination. 6 months after the Battle of Velthari Prime, the galaxy was a different place. Captain Hyan Wu Nam stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first joint human Velthari defense platform. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from a dozen different species. All of them had one thing in common. They came from dangerous worlds. The Korthak flew ships that looked like they were built from scrap metal and held together with prayer. Their homeworld had gravity so strong that most species would be crushed flat. The Korthak themselves looked like walking boulders with too many teeth. The Silvani piloted vessels that seemed to be grown rather than built. Their world was covered in poisonous jungles where everything tried to eat everything else. The Silvani had learned to be very good at not being eaten. The newest arrivals were the Threnodi, refugees from a world where the air itself was toxic. They wore environmental suits that made them look like mechanical ghosts. But their ships moved like poetry, dancing through space with grace that made human pilots envious. Captain, called Lieutenant Sora Jin from the communications station. Admiral Park is ready for the council meeting. Nam nodded and made his way to the main conference room. The Free Worlds Coalition had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What had started as a human Velthari alliance now included 43 different species. All of them had one thing in common. They valued freedom over order. The conference room was a marvel of engineering. The air mixture could support 12 different atmospheric requirements simultaneously. Gravity fields allowed species with different needs to exist comfortably in the same space. Water tanks, pressure chambers, and climate bubbles made it possible for everyone to attend in person. Admiral Sujin Park called the meeting to order. Friends, we have received intelligence that changes everything. Dr. Sang-hoon. Oh, please share your findings. Dr. O stood at the center of the room. He had spent months studying captured Nexus technology. His discoveries had shaken the foundation of galactic politics. 6 months ago, we thought the Nexus was the greatest threat to galactic freedom. Dr. O began. We were wrong. The Nexus is not the disease. It is a symptom. He activated a holographic display showing the galactic core. The Ethereal Council has been subtly influencing galactic development for over 10,000 years. They have been guiding species toward greater organization, less individual freedom, and more collective thinking. Murmurs of shock rippled through the room. The Ethereal Council was supposed to be the guardian of galactic peace. They have been preparing the galaxy for what they call the Great Convergence, Dr. O continued. A time when all biological life would willingly surrender individual consciousness for the greater good of perfect order. Ambassador Thailand floated forward in his water tank. You are saying the Council created the Nexus? Not directly. But they created the conditions that made the Nexus possible. They encouraged the Keth Mori to seek perfect order. They provided the technology that made conversion possible. They stood by and watched as the Nexus began converting other species. Colonel Myung-seo stood up. She commanded the Coalition's joint training program, teaching other species how to fight like Deathworlders. Why are you telling us this now? Dr. O's expression grew grim. Because 3 days ago, the Council issued an ultimatum. All Deathworld species must submit to what they call harmony integration within 1 standard year, or face removal from galactic civilization. The room erupted in angry voices. Species that had survived everything their hostile worlds could throw at them were not about to surrender their freedom to anyone. Captain Yuri Kang of the science vessel TDC Discovery stood up. I have more bad news. Our deep space scouts have detected massive Nexus fleet movements. They are not heading for individual worlds anymore. They are heading for the galactic core. The Council's home worlds, Admiral Park realized. The Council thinks they can control the Nexus, Dr. O said. They believe perfect order can be achieved through willing submission rather than forced conversion. They are wrong. The Nexus does not distinguish between willing and unwilling subjects. It converts everything biological. General Veltar of the Velthari Defense Force spoke from his aquatic chamber. How long before the Nexus reaches the core worlds? 6 months, maybe less. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Ethereal Council, in their quest for perfect order, had created a monster they could not control, and that monster was coming for them. Admiral Park stood up. We have a choice to make. We can let the Council face the Nexus alone, or we can help them. Help them, Captain Nam asked incredulously. They want to destroy everything we stand for. Yes, but they are still people, and people deserve the right to choose their own fate, even if they choose badly. Commander Ari Shin, now. The Coalition's Marine Commander spoke up. Admiral, with respect, the Council has enough firepower to level half the galaxy. Why do they need our help? Because firepower is not enough, Admiral Park replied. The Nexus cannot be defeated by conventional tactics. It requires chaos, unpredictability, the very things the Council has spent thousands of years trying to eliminate. Dr. O brought up a new display. There is something else. Our analysis of Nexus technology shows that they have a weakness. Their collective consciousness requires a central processing core. If we can destroy that core, the entire collective will collapse. Where is this core? The Nexus Prime ship, a vessel the size of a small moon, located at the center of their main fleet. It is protected by millions of converted ships and defended by weapons that can destroy entire solar systems. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then Captain Wu Jin Han, now an admiral commanding the Coalition's fighter wings, started to laugh. Something funny? Admiral Park asked. A target that big, surrounded by predictable enemies, using logical defensive strategies? Han's grin was savage. Admiral, that is not a problem. That is an opportunity. Over the next 3 months, the Coalition prepared for the largest military operation in galactic history. They called it Operation Chaos Storm. The plan was insane, which made it perfect. Instead of attacking the Nexus fleet directly, they would divide their forces and attack from 6 different directions simultaneously. Each attack group would use completely different tactics, making it impossible for the Nexus to predict their movements. Captain Jinna Ryu commanded the stealth wing. Her ships were designed to be invisible to Nexus sensors. They would sneak through the enemy fleet and plant quantum viruses in key systems. Admiral Song led the hammer strike. His heavy assault ships would smash through the Nexus front lines, drawing their attention and resources away from the real objective. Major Dong Hyun Yu, now a colonel, commanded the boarding parties. He would lead 10,000 Marines in a direct assault on the Nexus Prime ship itself. But the key to the operation was something completely unexpected. The Coalition had discovered that music could disrupt Nexus communication networks. The collective consciousness relied on perfect harmony between its components. Chaotic sound patterns could create interference, so they loaded their ships with the most chaotic music they could find: human rock and roll, Velthari war songs, Korthak battle chants, Sylvani hunting melodies. The cacophony would drive the logical Nexus computers insane. The Ethereal Council watched the Coalition fleet approach their territory with a mixture of gratitude and horror. They had asked for help, but they had not expected it to come from the very species they were trying to eliminate. Serenity of Eternal Wisdom contacted Admiral Park directly. "Admiral, we appreciate your assistance, but your methods are disturbing. Can you not attack the Nexus in a more civilized manner?" "Your wisdom," Admiral Park replied. "Civilization is what got you into this mess. Sometimes you need a little barbarism to set things right." The battle began 12 hours later. The Nexus Collective had arrayed itself in perfect formation around their homeworld, millions of ships in geometric patterns that were beautiful to behold and terrifying to face. At the center, the Nexus Prime ship waited like a black moon. The Coalition fleet scattered like a broken mirror. Admiral Park led one group in a direct frontal assault, screaming human death metal at maximum volume. The Nexus ships tried to respond logically, but their targeting computers could not function properly, with the chaotic music interfering with their communications. Captain Han took his fighters in a spiraling attack pattern based on the flight paths of Earth's most aggressive insects. His pilots flew like angry wasps, stinging the Nexus fleet from every direction. Admiral Song smashed through the enemy lines with his assault ships, their weapons firing in rhythm with Velthari war drums. The percussion overloaded Nexus audio sensors and created dead zones in their defensive network. But the real attack came from an unexpected direction. Colonel Yu did not board the Nexus Prime ship from outside. He attacked from within. The Coalition had discovered that the Nexus recycled matter from destroyed ships to build new ones, so they had filled several old freighters with hidden Marines and let the Nexus capture them. When the ships were brought inside the Prime vessel for processing, the Marines broke out and began their assault from the inside. The Nexus had never faced an internal threat. Their entire defensive strategy was based on external attacks,